Hello everyone, Dale Delbridge here, and I'm just sitting at the desk thinking about what today, tomorrow, and yesterday, and wondering how the future is going to shape for me. And one of the things that stands out in my mind is I'd like to just mention the importance of supporting your local business owners, your small business owners, the mom and pops, the individual little boutiques and things of this nature that fill out and flush out our communities and help us improve the general quality of life where we live, whether we're urban or whether we're very remote, kind of out in the areas. Now, one of the things that as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, how has our most recent trends changed or extended that which we already saw coming on? Now, we saw a couple of decades back, I guess it was, Walmart come in, and they were the first big hit to the small business owners because they have the buying power, they have the ability to drive what they're willing to pay for a product and basically dictate, if you want to sell through us, you'll do it at the price we tell you to sell it. And they went from retail and they just expanded into groceries, and then from groceries they expanded into the small neighborhood markets. You've seen those, the little small footprint grocery stores, and they just kept on gobbling and eating and taking more. Now that we have Amazon became a real mover in the retail business, they even started advancing into the online sales to compete. We also had foreign businesses such as AliExpress and Alibaba coming in and doing the same thing, and they're marketing Chinese goods directly to the American consumer. And so we're becoming more accustomed to living online and not going and seeing our friends and neighbors who are working in their own businesses, their barbershops, their karate studios, their dance studios, their health, whatever it is. We're finding that we're withdrawing a little bit from that community engagement, that real people. And I think that is kind of tragic, because I enjoy people. I enjoy my community. I enjoy getting out to visit with folks. But when COVID hit, when this big lockdown came in, we found out the government will in fact restrict your movement, whether you're healthy or unhealthy, and that doesn't in turn impact other people. And we see the large urban areas, which is where the problems seem to be, they seem to be very reluctant to let people go to work. And we see that the two areas I observe in particular, which are being held out at last at the most encumbrance, are places where we gather, where humans get together and meet one another and talk to one another and exchange, things of their day, their kids, their life, whatever. Churches, bars, and I wouldn't say your children would go to bars, but it's where a lot of our younger adults go during that phase of their life, where other people may be going to church, they're going that. We've shut down our live music venues. Our gig workers are suffering. The people who, whether they're outdoor concerts, seasonal worker, really heavy in the summertime, or have indoor jobs where they have an actual club or something they're playing. I never really quite figured out why live music, even in restaurants, was singled out as something they couldn't have. I'm not really sure. I've known a lot of guitar players. I've never really seen one of them I thought I was going to catch the flu from. So I don't really know why certain people are picked to bear the brunt of the economic suffering that we're going through. Now we have the small businesses have already been under attack. If you go back in years, think about Walmart. Walmart was probably the biggest one that shook the ground, that shook the earth. Walmart came in and it started this big box concept, and we've expanded on it with other people. They eventually got into where we're cutting out cashiers. We're going to start doing the scan it yourself, and some of these lower pay jobs, these lower skills jobs that we might have as young persons coming of kind of the high school age and slightly after, that we were coming into and finding our spending money, they're starting to cut some of that stuff out, and it's going more and more online. Now, that doesn't mean that these workers will be displaced completely. They just may end up having to go into a warehouse environment or some other thing. So the world is always going to change. Walmart did it, and they started putting pressure on the small businesses. And with their buying powers, they dictated what prices they would pay and what they wouldn't pay, and that hurt a lot of folks. And then they decided they were getting out of just retail and got into food and started competing with Albertsons and the Krogers and the Publix and things like that. And then they've gotten into competing even against the neighborhood markets of Dollar General. They're squeezing in with their smaller stores. And so they're just slowly getting into everyone's business. Now, we have Amazon. I want to show you this little slide. Amazon, this is a projection. They're growing by leaps and bounds. In fact, I think Rutherford County and Wilson County, I believe it was, recently had new distribution centers, and they provided jobs and they provided taxes and things of that nature where they went in, employment, and that's a good thing. But it shows that there must be growth in Amazon for them to put that kind of capital investment in place. And one of the things that Amazon does is, by virtue of being online, they are reducing like cashiers and certain other functions that we would normally have in our communities. And we're going more in front of a computer like I am right now. Now, if I look at a recent newsworthy event that everyone cheered out, yay, it's a great deal, we have the Facebook. The Facebook is going to build over, did they say 2 or 3 years, to build $800 million worth of investment in Gallatin, Sumner County, just one of our community, bedroom communities to Davison County. And that to me tells me that their projections, their business models and projections shows a need for this capital investment of this size. And Facebook is ubiquitous these days in our news. They control some of our input, our knowledge, and what we say, what we do. They also control what goods and services are being presented to us. And I use their advertisement from time to time myself. They're there. They're growing. So we see growth in these large, cash-rich companies, and that puts even more pressure on our small mom and pop run organizations, our little businesses. But mom and pop can do something that Facebook and the rest of them can only try to emulate. And this is where I think you have a real strength as a small business. You're a human being. You are a person with a name and the soul and blood and everything that runs through you, and events in your life, children in many cases, or grandchildren, or vice versa, whatever is on your life. There's someone that's going to parallel your life experience. And you can share that life with other people and build a type of loyalty that these corporations can't do. That is a strength that you have inherent. Is also a little bit of a weakness. Now, as we see, I want to go into a little bit into from Amazon, which is retail, into the big conglomerates. I want to look at this right here, which is retail trends. And we can look at what you can do. Now, if you're a small store, I mean, we had the Cracker Barrel, which was Lebanon. They fused together sort of that little souvenir shop with, country food. And they built something up in there, but they could go online, and you can find other places to get some of those unique items are beginning to be substitutable with other things. And they're a restaurant. What were the first places we saw hit with this restriction? They restricted our travel, and people started pulling away from restaurants. The restaurant industry in the next several years may not come all the way back to where we were before COVID-19. I don't know. That's just speculation. It's just a feeling, as we were already seeing trends in the restaurant. Let me switch over to the restaurant page here. We were already seeing in the restaurant industry certain trends, which was a trend to eat healthier. I saw a survey just recently that said that 7 of 10 people had stated that COVID had made them want to eat and behave more healthily. So if you run hot yoga or a gym or something like this that is exercise-based, personal training, this may be a great opportunity and growth in that industry. We'll have to see how that holds out. We also see that for some reason, gyms and the hot yoga places, they seem to be been targeted to break up that business, to people not to go into those environments to work out. Now, I don't know a lot of people, but if you want social distancing, a lot of times when you're hot and sweaty, you do have a little bit of space. Am I not right? I mean, maybe yoga with the mats, it's a little closer together. And goat yoga, we have goat yoga out in the country if we like. But that was one of the things that was impacted. But as we get our travel restrictions removed, that may very well be a permanent commitment that people are willing to make, that they're going in to invest in themselves, invest in their health. We already saw projected from 2017, 18, and 19 a trend toward cleaner eating, and that's where the vegan stuff came in. They were pushing the plant-based, low cholesterol type of things. Who knows if that will continue in that regard, but it was a trend that people just want to get a little bit healthier. So that's an option that we might have. So an existing restaurant may be able to revamp some of its menu items and come up with some greater alternatives if in fact they sell and the people want to buy that type of thing. I, on the other hand, enjoy some good chicken wings every now and then, and I'm guilty as the rest of the people of being hard to change my particular patterns. But the restaurant industry does change, and it survived on, a lot of them are getting by, or perhaps bleeding less profusely by doing the takeout. We may find out that the restaurants no longer need the huge dining rooms if people are becoming more and more accustomed to reducing the travel. We're no longer grabbing something on the way home from work, picking this up on the way to here to there. Athletics are disrupted, so we're not grabbing something on the way to or way from band practice or something like that. It's really affected a lot of stuff. Now, what will our participations be in the future? We'd like to think that the extracurricular activities of the schools, because they are so important to our youth, will continue. And so we'll get some of that back. But perhaps in the economic uncertainty that COVID brought, perhaps people will save a little bit more money and start eating at home, and they can combine that with cleaner eating. And there's nothing cleaner probably than taking your own fresh produce, your own raw ingredients, and making your own food. So restaurants may be an area that suffers. And so it may not be a bad idea to keep an eye on your census, your dining room census, and trend that out to see if you may in fact benefit from moving to a smaller space. Now, along with that, we also have other challenges. Now, this pandemic seems to be dominant in dense populated areas. And we were in pre-COVID days building densely populated and taxable centers where we had the high-rise living, everything within walking distance, and everything that got shut down has had an impact on it. Well, a lot of people, the studies are beginning to suggest, may be looking to move away from these population dense areas into more rural areas. So that may be an option for you if in your current location and in the future times things don't bounce back. You may watch the trend if in fact people migrate out of the big cities into the bedroom communities where the pace is a little slower, and you may be able to scale according to that kind of business. So I don't know what the future holds. I'm just guessing like the rest of you. But I do see when Facebook is willing to go almost $1 billion in one data center, they're planning on a 3-year building cycle, and we have Amazon building up. It's going to be harder and harder for your local people to survive. And I would like I don't own one, but I would like to just suggest that you try to work with as many of your small business owners as possible. Find you a nice barber, a hair people, your stylist, a cigar shop, maybe a bakery, something of this nature. Butchers, if you have some of those around, and just try to do business with people. Work the people relationship, because as we get further and further withdrawn into our home where everything is done on a keyboard in this internet world, we're going to really start to miss our human engagements, because what makes any community work is its people. And you're part of that. They're part of that. Don't abandon them, and hopefully they won't abandon you. It's really tough on folks, and we're all suffering. But if we pull together, I think as a team, we can get through this. And we just may have to do things differently in the future than we've been doing them. But that's part of this old rodeo we call life. So anyway, I appreciate you indulging sort of this crazy old guy and his rambling on. But I think no matter how bumpy the road looks, it's still better to go down the road than to stay locked in fearing the sunrise.